In a special episode of the podcast, I want to ask, who is the invisible hand behind the Biden presidency? If Biden is the puppet, who's pulling the strings? The answer, of course, and we have his own admission, Barack Obama. So I'm going to do a deep dive into Obama, who he is, what motivates him, and what he hopes to accomplish in this, his third term. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
America needs this voice. The times are crazy. In a time of confusion, division, and lies, we need a brave voice of reason, understanding, and truth. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
I think we're all aware that Joe Biden isn't really running the country. He is president in name, but not in fact. So if Biden is simply sitting staring in the middle of the canoe, who's manning the oars? If Biden is the puppet, who is manipulating him? Who is pulling the strings? Who is the invisible hand behind the Biden presidency? The short answer, the two-word answer, is Barack Obama. It is Obama and Obama's people who are guiding the Biden presidency. Very interestingly, some time ago, Obama himself was asked directly the question of whether or not he might fancy a third term, and very revealingly, he said this. Listen.
People would ask me, knowing what you know now, do you wish like you had a third term? And I used to say, you know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats.
So Obama here lets the cat out of the bag. Now he's being wry, he's being playful, I'd be okay with that. He's half joking, but that's my point. He's only half joking. You can see here that this is a guy who wants to stay in the game. He wants to be relevant. In fact, just recently, a day or so ago, he tweeted out his summer playlist of songs that he's listening to. I mean, who the heck cares? He thinks we care. He thinks we're going to, let's make a note of this playlist, guys. And, at the next party, we're going to make sure we feature some of the Obama favorites. So this is a guy whose gargantuan Himalayan ego makes him think that every time he opens his mouth, the world pauses to listen. And I'm also now reading from a comment that he made. This is just a couple of months ago, where he said that Biden was, quote, finishing the job of his presidency. Very interesting statement. Now, he denies in that conversation that he is going for a third term. This, by the way, is a conversation he did on the Ezra Klein show, part of the New York Times kind of system of podcasts. He goes, this is not a third Obama term. We face a totally different world than we faced in the previous administration, the Obama-Biden administration. But if you think about this is hardly a denial, because he's just saying that the circumstances are different. He's not saying that the principles that are being applied are any different at all. In fact, he goes on to say, quote, 90% of the folks who are there in my administration, they are continuing and building on the policies we talked about. So what Obama is getting at here is not merely that you've got a lot of Obama people running the Biden White House. So they're directly involved in that sense. This is Obama's team, and as he himself says, carrying out the Obama agenda. But then he also goes on to say, he's also referring to his own people who are in Washington, D.C., his own people who have created a network of nonprofits and NGOs and various types of lobbying organizations. So this is the extended Obama network, not just inside, but outside of government. And then if you look at Obama himself, where is Obama? Well, He's plunked down in a mansion in the Kalorama neighborhood of Washington, D.C. Now, you have to think for a moment to realize by precedent how unusual this is. By and large, presidents, when they're done, they're done. When George Washington was done, he left. He went back to being a gentleman farmer in Virginia. If you've seen the movie John Adams, you can see that John Adams kind of gets into a carriage and almost quietly slinks out of Washington and makes his way back up to New England. George W. Bush went back to his ranch in Midland. Reagan went back to California. Harry Truman retired to Missouri. So this is the tradition. But Obama, very tellingly, sets up shop, you might say, with in Washington, D.C., where he apparently has created a kind of shadow presidency. Now, he was trying to do this to undermine Trump for 4 years. But with Biden, Obama has a chance to have, you may say, direct impact. He's not merely an obstructionist. He's able now to steer the ship of state, with Biden just standing up there and saying things like, "Is it time for me to leave now? They're not going to let me answer another question." So Biden is almost publicly confessing his ineptitude and the fact that he lives in another world, and it's Barack Obama energetically, I would say diabolically, steering the ship. Now, Obama had said, you might remember going all the way back to when he was first elected, he said, starting today, we must begin the work of remaking America. And I think here we have, in a single statement, Obama's agenda. His agenda is to take America as it is. See, there's no reason to remake something that's fine, right? You don't remake a car that's functioning properly. To remake America, you've got to take down the America that's there before and put in its place another America. And that is very much the Obama agenda. It's also the progressive agenda, but I think with Obama, he wants to move America in a socialist, but I would argue more broadly, anti-American direction. And anti-American here is the inverse of the principles of American exceptionalism. It was recently, I think at the Dallas CPAC, Kristi Noem said something, and she was saying, saying it in a very pedestrian way. She says, I feel like I'm not in the America I grew up in. So the America I grew up in, she was saying, is kind of passing before our eyes. And I think many of us have the feeling, I feel, that the America I came to in the late 1970s as an exchange student, the left wants to undo America as it is. And they want to undo its mores, pull down its monuments, change its curriculum, really remake the American mind, and, if you will, either remake or abolish the American dream itself. This is their agenda, and it's Obama's agenda. So in the rest of this podcast, we're going to plumb the depths of Obama to get the full gauge of this man, what he wants to do, where he's taking us via the Biden canoe, you might say. And also, what are the things we need to do to block him and to bring back, to the degree we can, the America we have lost. As you know, my friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of our lives. He didn't stop by simply creating the best pillow. He's created the new Giza Dream bed sheets. Now, these look and feel great, which means an even better night's sleep for me, which is crucial for my busy schedule. Now, Mike found the world's best cotton called Giza. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. Mike's Giza Dream sheets come with a 60-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. Now, the first night you sleep on these sheets, you're not going to want to sleep on anything else. The Giza Dream sheets come in a variety of sizes and colors, and Mike is making a special offer for my listeners. You will get 2-for-1 low price plus free shipping. Go to mypillow.com and use promo code Dinesh. By the way, you'll find there not just this amazing offer, but deep discounts on all the MyPillow products, the MyPillow mattress topper, the MyPillow robes, the towel sets, and so much more. Call 1-800-876-0227 and use promo code Dinesh. Or go to mypillow.com. Just make sure that you use promo code Dinesh. If it is Barack Obama and not Joe Biden who's really running the country, it's helpful to ask, who is Barack Obama? I mean, who is the man at his core? Now, Obama has always been something of a mystery. He is a slippery, dodgy character. He doesn't reveal who he truly is. His rhetoric is a form of camouflage. And he has grown up that way. So this is a man with a mask. And what we need to do is unmask him. We need to unmask Obama to see his face as it truly is. Now, when Obama first came to public light, he was thought by many people to be a champion of the civil rights movement. This was the whole significance of the sort of first black president, that Obama was the new Martin Luther King. And Obama himself recognized that this was the source of his appeal, and he kind of played on it. The idea that, oh, he's in the tradition of Martin Luther King's dream, and oh, here was a guy with his roots in Selma and Montgomery and the civil rights protests and the sit-ins and Rosa Parks refusing to sit in the back of the bus. But of course, this is not Obama's tradition. He has nothing to do with it, and he doesn't even particularly care about it. You might ask yourself a simple question over 8 years. How often did Obama visit the inner city? How often did he say, let me go try to really discover what conditions are over there? Maybe I grew up in Hawaii. Maybe my parents were middle class. Maybe my grandparents who raised me were rather well off. I went to private schools, Punahou Academy in Hawaii, then off to Occidental College, then Columbia, then Harvard Law School. So I don't know the inner city black community, but let me try to find out. But you notice the guy had absolutely no interest in any of that. That was really not what he was about. People projected their civil rights sort of fantasy onto Obama. Oh, wouldn't it be great to have someone who sort of helps us come together as a country, get behind the legacy, let's put the legacy of race behind us. In reality, of course, Obama's goal was the exact opposite. It was to make fester the sores of racial discontent. But why? Why would he want to do that? Well, it turns out that Obama had a different agenda, a bigger agenda, and an agenda that was more about the world than it even was about America. Although it involved transforming America in order to transform the world. Now, I have, in many ways, and I made this point in my first film, 2016, Obama's America, a film that, by the way, you should see. It's kind of eerily eye-opening to see that film now. And to just ask yourself, did Dinesh get Obama right? But I started in the film where I kind of put my hand up alongside Obama's, and I make the point that, hey, look, the two of us are seemingly the same color. I make the point that I was born in the year 1961, same year as Obama. So we're exactly the same age. We both went to an Ivy League school, graduating, by the way, in the same year, 1983. We both, in different ways, went into a political career, although we took opposite paths, in which I embraced the American dream, and I also embraced Martin Luther King's dream, and I would argue that Obama embraced neither. Obama had his own dream, or more precisely, it wasn't his dream, it was somebody else's dream, his father's dream. That's why Obama's book, his autobiography, and by the way, here's a dude who has written 3 autobiographies, 3 books. These are the only books he's written, and they're all about himself. Gives you a hint of his Himalayan ego, the ridiculous, the way the guy is, probably the best scene he sees all day is when he gets up and looks at his own face in the morning in the mirror. It makes him super excited. After all, he gets to be Obama. He's just truly a legend in his own mind. But this is a guy who, nevertheless, wrapped up as he is in himself, there is one man who has supplied Obama's dream to him, and that's his father. And if you think of the title of his book, it's not the dreams of my father. I'm going to be commenting on my father's dreams. No, it's the dreams from my father, meaning these are the dreams that I, Obama, got from my dad. Now, we want to follow Obama's journey a little bit and see what he got from his dad and from his mom. But I do want to point out that a lot of things in Obama's early life, particularly his college years, are not known. Obama, for example, goes to Occidental College, by the way, a very mediocre second-rate college, and he's a third-rate student at a second-rate college. So this is a guy with not really known for high IQ or sparkling intelligence. At least his professors didn't think so, and neither did his friends and colleagues. Somehow, mysteriously then, he transfers to Columbia. How on earth do you transfer to an Ivy League school when you're a third-rate student at a second-rate college? Now, the answer perhaps is affirmative action, but that's really not the full answer. It's not that easy to do it. If you haven't gotten into Columbia on affirmative action, it's not so easy to transfer in. There's some question about whether Obama presented himself as a foreign student in order to get kind of foreign student consideration. By the way, some of Obama's fellow students who went to Columbia at that time have said that they know nobody at Columbia who knew Obama. Very interesting statement. And in fact, I'm not aware of students who have come forward saying, oh yeah, you know, Obama went to Columbia in those years. I knew the guy. There is a remarkable absence of people who knew him at Columbia. Maybe it's because he was very involved in radical causes. He was involved with radical activists in Harlem. Who knows? What's even more surprising is we don't know what Obama's grades were at Columbia. They've never been revealed. Columbia has sealed them. Obama wrote a thesis at Columbia. No one has ever seen it. At least his professors have, but no one else. It's not been made public. By the way, you can read Michelle Obama's semi-illiterate thesis from Princeton, which was done at about the same time. But Obama's thesis, which I'm sure is full of whoppers and idiocies, nevertheless completely concealed. Obama's record at Columbia, very mediocre, but mysteriously again, boom, he turns up at Harvard Law School. How do you get to Harvard Law School? No one really knows. He's president of the Harvard Law Review, and this, of course, makes news, but he doesn't write a single article in the Law Review. By the way, neither has Obama written a scholarly article on any subject in any magazine. It's kind of funny because over the years, and even one of my Dartmouth professors, Jeffrey Hart, would say, oh, you know, there's a book out, Dinesh, you should read it. It's called Reading Obama. And it's written by this guy, a Harvard historian, wrote the book where he quotes, he describes Obama as, quote, a member of a rare breed of philosopher presidents. And he makes reference to Obama's, quote, extensive writings, except there are no such writings. So although Obama is sometimes described as a constitutional scholar, he's never published an article on constitutional law in any academic journal ever. So these are the sort of mysteries around Obama. And they tell us that in trying to discover the real Obama, we've got to follow Obama's own journey, a journey that takes us from Hawaii to Indonesia, to Africa, to the grave of his dead father. I want to talk to you about Legacy Box. It's a great way to have your outdated media digitally preserved on a modern format. And right now, they're offering 40% off so you can ensure your memories are safe for generations. Wedding season is here, guys, and you know your parents are going to want to look at their wedding photos. What better way to do it than to send their old photos to Legacy Box? Now, Debbie and I have had a great experience with Legacy Box. We've digitized our old photos and cassette and video recordings. I was actually really amused to see my stepson's ultrasound. He's now 26. Debbie hadn't seen this ultrasound in 2.5 decades. These are the kind of priceless experiences that Legacy Box helps us preserve. We're about to send them another box full of our photos. Legacy Box is a way for you to digitally preserve your past. And the process from start to finish is easy. You pack and send, and their team digitizes everything by hand. Get back perfectly preserved digital copies on thumb drive, DVD, or the cloud, ready to watch, share, and enjoy. They've thought of everything. They even provide state-of-the-art tracking and send you updates at every step of the process. Right now, Legacy Box is offering 40% off so your family can celebrate meaningful moments at a fraction of the normal price. Visit legacybox.com/Dinesh to get started today. That's legacybox.com/Dinesh for 40% off. legacybox.com/Dinesh. What is Obama's dream? It's not the American dream, and we know that because really going back to when he was first elected, 2009, Obama was asked, do you believe in American exceptionalism? In other words, do you believe that America is unique? And Obama said, yeah, I believe in American exceptionalism. But then he added this. He goes, I believe in American exceptionalism just as the Brits believe in British exceptionalism, or the Greeks believe in Greek exceptionalism. Now, what can this strange comment mean? I guess at one level what it means is that each culture has its own mores. And in America, we eat hot dogs, and the British eat their horrible shepherd's pies, and the Greeks eat souvlaki, and so on. But I don't think that's what Obama was saying, and that's not what exceptionalism even means. Exceptionalism means ways in which America is unique in the world. And the Novus Ordo Seclorum, the new order of the ages, the founders thought they were creating a society which almost provided a new way to be human. And Obama's rejecting all that. He's saying there's nothing especially unique about Americans. Everyone thinks they're unique, and therefore no one really is. So if it's not the American dream that drives Obama, it's obviously some other kind of a dream. Now here's a quote from Obama from his autobiography. It was into my father's image, the black man, son of Africa, that I packed all the attributes I sought in myself. What he's saying is that he took his father's image and he tried to put all of himself into it. There's something very Freudian about this, or even Shakespearean. Why? Because really Obama didn't know his father. His father, Barack Obama Sr., and some people say his father was an immigrant. No, his father wasn't an immigrant. I'm an immigrant. An immigrant is someone who comes to a country like America and stays, becomes an American citizen, becomes an American. Barack Obama Sr. didn't do that. He essentially showed up in America to study. He married Stanley Ann Obama, Obama's mom. They had Obama out of wedlock. And before Obama was really even born or even an infant, he was gone. He was out of there. And he went off to the East Coast, and he went to Harvard, and he took up with another woman. And so this Obama was sort of he was a deadbeat dad, Barack Obama Sr. was. And so the strange thing here is that Obama nevertheless invests his dream in this deadbeat dad. He tracks him down. He tries to figure out who he was. It's almost as if, unable to find his father, he does the next best thing. He incorporates into himself his father's ideals. It's almost like he's trying to be worthy of this man who kicked him to the curb. And the culmination of Obama's journey, and this takes up almost a third of his book, by the way, Dreams from My Father, is Obama's trip to Africa. I'm going to talk about that trip, but I want you first to look at a clip which represents Obama showing up at his father's grave. And here is Obama. By the way, this is in his own words. This is Obama talking directly about his experience standing there at his father's grave. Listen.
For a long time, I sat between the two graves and wept. When my tears were finally spent, I felt a calmness wash over me. I felt the circle finally close. I realized that who I was, what I cared about, was no longer just a matter of intellect or obligation.
I, Barack Hussein Obama,
No longer a construct of words.
do solemnly swear
I saw that my life in America, the black life, the white life, the sense of abandonment I'd felt as a boy, the frustration and hope I had witnessed in Chicago, all of it was connected with this small plot of earth an ocean away. Connected by more than the accident of a name or the color of my skin. The pain I felt was my father's pain.
You can tell from Obama's formulation that this is a critical moment for him. His whole life comes together when he stands at his father's grave. And you almost say in a kind of kooky way, he imbibes the spirit of the man. He becomes who he is, Barack Obama, and he has never wavered from that. Earlier, when Obama goes to Africa, he's identified as a tourist. Why? Because he looks obviously American. And a vendor in the market, the street market in Nairobi, calls him an American. And Obama says he beats his chest and responds, "I'm a Luo." So it's a member of the Luo tribe, which is, of course, what Barack Obama's father and his grandfather, Onyango Obama, both were. And then I'm now quoting Obama. "I feel my father's presence as Auma," this is his sister, "and I walk through the busy street. I hear him in the laughter of the pair of university students. I smell him in the cigarette smoke of the businessman. The old man is here, although he doesn't say anything to me. He's here asking me to understand." So you can see how Obama is this, haunted figure. And he's haunted by the person of his dad. But just as important, he's haunted by the ideology of his dad. And here we get to the big theme of anti-colonialism. Now, some people, when they hear the word anti-colonialism, they think, well, what's the big deal, Dinesh? Isn't America an anti-colonial country? We got our independence from the British. Well, yes. But we're not talking about anti-colonialism in that broad sense. We're talking about a specific anti-colonial thrust in the 20th century, which was occurring all over the world, in Asia, in Africa, in South America. We're talking about countries breaking free of Western rule and setting up independent African, Asian, South American societies in resistance to the principles of the West. This was the ideology of Barack Obama Sr. It was anti-Western, it was anti-American. Why anti-American? Because in a sense, the baton of Western superiority had passed from the British to America. America, after World War II, became the undisputed leader of Western civilization. And so the hatred of Barack Obama Sr., who saw himself as chafing under colonial rule, in his case, British colonial rule in Kenya, but what he transfers to his son is the belief that Western civilization in general, and America in particular, have been a nefarious, insidious force in the world, and their power needs to be diminished, if not crushed entirely. Do you realize you could be paying a lot less for your home every month? This really is a true statement because there are still some loan programs with rates in the 2s, but they won't be this low forever. So you've got to take action now. Call American Financing, America's home for home loans. Take advantage of a free, no obligation mortgage review and be one step closer to hundreds, maybe even $1,000 in monthly savings. It really is possible because their expert mortgage consultants look at your entire financial picture, finding every way to help you save. You could even postpone 2 mortgage payments. So what are you waiting for? Call 888-528-1219 or apply online at americanfinancing.net. American Financing, NMLS 182334, NMLSconsumeraccess.org. I want to talk in this segment about Obama's mom, Stanley Ann Obama, and in the process resolve a kind of puzzle. The puzzle is how Obama's father's ideology could have been somehow transmitted to Obama over the years. And if the father wasn't there, if the father abandoned him, and some people who watched my movie on Obama, 2016, said, oh, Dinesh, Obama can't possibly have gone to Africa for a few weeks and basically suddenly become his dad. He must have been getting that indoctrination all through his life. And it turns out he was. From whom? From the mom. So here our mystery deepens because Barack Obama Sr., who abandons not only his kid, but abandons his wife, nevertheless leaves her, starstruck by him, devoted to him, and committed to pushing the father's demented ideology on young Barack Obama. Now, Stanley Ann Obama was a bohemian girl, a white-bread girl raised in the Midwest, but she had from a very young age a kind of crazy fascination with blacks. One of her friends, and I quote this in the book Obama's America, she goes, Ann was really, really white. I think she just loved people of a different skin color. This is a close friend talking about her. And And Obama himself makes the point in his autobiography that whenever a black man showed up around his mom would praise the black guy extravagantly. Quote, every black man was Thurgood Marshall or Sidney Poitier. Every black woman, Fannie Lou Hamer or Lena Horne. So she had this kind of immature, romanticized view of African Americans. Well, no surprise she took up with Barack Obama Sr. And she began to worship the man, even though it seems that from his point of view, she was nothing more than a kind of a temporary plaything. Now, after Barack Obama Sr. abandoned his wife and his son, Barack Obama, Anne married another guy. She, as I said, she was kind of a bohemian, so she goes off to Indonesia to study Indonesian handicrafts. And there she meets a guy named Lolo Soetoro. Now, she thinks that this Lolo Soetoro is a lot like Barack Obama Sr. Why? Because Indonesia fought for its independence. And this Lolo guy was part of the Indonesian independence movement. And so she thought, wow, this is basically the kind of Indonesian version of my former husband. And so she's all into it, and she wants to be part of the Indonesian struggle. Here's a little clip from 2016 in which, again, Obama himself, in a very revealing way, talks about Indonesia, and listen to the anti-colonial echoes in Obama's own words. Here we go.
She had expected it to be difficult, this new life of hers. Before leaving Hawaii, she had tried to learn all that she could about Indonesia, the history of colonialism, first the Dutch for over 3 centuries, then the Japanese during the war, seeking control over vast stores of oil, metal, and timber, the fight for independence after the war, and the emergence of a freedom fighter named Sukarno as the country's first president.
So these were Anne's expectations of Lolo. But as it turns out, this Lolo character turns out to be a capitalist. He wants to start a business. He goes to work for an oil company. He loves America. And Anne can't believe it. She's a leftist. She's a bohemian. She's imbibed the anti-Americanism of Barack Obama Sr., which she shares. And so she comes to hate this guy. And she hates him because he's pro-American. And she hates him because he works in an oil company and because he is a capitalist. And so guess what she does? At the age of 10, she takes young Barack Obama, puts him on a plane, and sends him alone back to America. And then you might think, well, you know, obviously she had some unfinished work to do in Indonesia. She's going to return. She never returns to America for the rest of her life. In other words, she packs off her kid and sends him to America, and she never joins him. She visits occasionally, but she lives the rest of her life in Indonesia, only coming back when she gets cancer. And very interestingly, Obama repays her neglect by not showing up when she's dying. He just pretends like it's not happening. Now, later he would say, I was really busy, I couldn't make it, and so on. But it's your own mom dying of cancer. But I think Obama basically said, look how you mistreated me, and I'm going to pay you in your own coin. Now, the reason I believe that Anne Obama sent young Obama back is she didn't want him to be exposed to what she saw as the corrupting pro-American influence of her new husband, Lolo. She didn't want Obama to become pro-American. She had been pushing this anti-American ideology into this poor brat. And then she thought, listen, I'm not gonna let Lolo corrupt him the other way from her point of view. And so you see Obama is this sort of, I feel sorry for him in a certain way. He was neglected and abandoned both by his dad and by his mom. But we begin to see here how he took refuge in ideology. The simmering resentments that he had against his own family all get plowed into this bitter anti-American ideology that through a set of circumstances, Obama becomes in a position to unleash on the world stage. On July 4th, 1776, we declared our independence from taxation from a government an ocean away. Today, our government is the one imposing oppressive taxes, while at the same time sending our wealth overseas and driving the value of the dollar into the ground through reckless spending. Now, this is the time to declare your independence for your savings. Cut your ties to the US dollar and invest in gold and silver with Birch Gold Group. If you haven't reached out to Birch Gold to diversify part of your IRA or 401k into a precious metals IRA, do it today. Text Dinesh to 484848. You'll get a free information kit on protecting your savings with gold. I buy my gold from Birch Gold. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews, and over 10,000 happy customers. Talk to them. Have them help you safeguard your investments. Text Dinesh to 484848 to claim your free information kit and to speak with a precious metals expert on holding gold and silver in a tax-sheltered account. Again, text Dinesh to 484848. I'd like to do an assessment of the anti-colonial ideology espoused by Barack Obama Sr. and infused as a defining characteristic in his son, Barack Obama. And this anti-colonialism is essentially a strategy of reducing America's wealth and power. That, I believe, was the consistent Obama agenda over his 8 years. That, I believe, is the driving force behind the Biden administration, guided by Obama's invisible hand now. In 1965, Obama's father, Barack Obama Sr., published a paper in the East African Journal, which was called Problems Facing Our Socialism. Being an economist, he was discussing tax rates. And he talked about his proposal, kind of a new idea, for a tax rate that he thought would be really a good reflection of socialist principles in action. What was the tax rate that Barack Obama Sr. wanted for industry? Answer, 100%. A 100% tax rate. In other words, you start a business, you make a profit, and you turn all of it into the government. I'm not quoting him. He goes, theoretically, there's nothing that can stop the government from taxing 100% of income so long as the people get benefits from the government commensurate with that income which is taxed. So what he's saying is take people's money and then have an entitlement state that offers people benefits with that money. This is pure socialism in action. Now, when I went to Kenya, I tracked down Obama's brother. This is George Obama, his father's son, but from a different wife. And George Obama is not like either Barack Obama or Barack Obama Sr. Here's a short clip of my conversation with George Obama. Listen.
Recently, President Obama spoke, and he was quoting from the famous story of Cain and Abel, that we are brother's keeper. Now, my point is, you are his brother. Has he been your keeper?
Go ask him.
You can almost, hear the bitterness in George's voice. He's basically saying, confirming that Obama is a massive hypocrite, a guy who talks about being, we've got to be our brother's keeper. But when it comes to his own brother, he's not going to lift a finger to help. And this is Obama's history. He hasn't lifted a finger to help. Many of his other family members, by the way, have been in serious trouble. They know they can't count on Obama. But in my interview with George, he goes on to say some very interesting things about colonialism. First of all, he says that he doesn't blame the poverty of Kenya on the British. Why not? I'm going to quote him. He says that at the time of Kenya's independence in the early 1960s, he goes, quote, Kenya was on an economic par with Malaysia or Singapore. We were at the same level in terms of development. Look where we are now and where they are. They're practically developed and industrialized, while Kenya is still a basket case. Now, if you think about this, this is extremely crushing, because what George is saying, he's an intelligent guy, is that, look, all these three countries were under Western domination in one form or another. All of them got independence about the same time. How is it the case that the so-called Asian tigers are 3, 4, 5 times as wealthy as Kenya? how can we blame that on the British? We started off at the same place, but we've ended up very differently. It looks like the poverty, the misery, the corruption in Kenya is the fault of the people running Kenya ever since then. So this is George, and I believe that this is part of the reason why Obama, this is Barack Obama Jr., the son, hates him. The reason Obama won't help him isn't just because Obama is a cheapskate and Obama is a hypocrite. That's all true. But it's also because Obama sees George as betraying the noble father, as breaking with their father's ideology, as blaming the problems of Kenya on Kenyans and on the post-independence betrayal, you may say, of the freedom struggle in Kenya. Now, when we think of anti-colonialism, and I've had to think about this quite a bit because, of course, I'm a product of British colonialism. I published an article, this was in the Chronicle of Higher Education, but also in the San Francisco Chronicle, and you can look it up. It's called 2 Cheers for Colonialism, in which I look at the 3 premises of the anti-colonialists and show that all the 3 premises are wrong. So here are the 3 premises. Number 1, colonialism and imperialism are distinctly Western. And I go, what? That's ridiculous. If you look at India alone, long before the British came to India, India was invaded by the Persians, by the Mongols, by the Turks, by the Afghans, by Alexander the Great, by the Arabs. So the British were like the 7th colonial power to show up in India. And of course, we talk about the Western Empire, but there was the Egyptian Empire, the Persian Empire, the Macedonian Empire, the Islamic Empire, the Mongol Empire, and so on. So when you think about the people say, well, we got to have reparations for the crimes of Western civilization. The question becomes, what about all these other empires that have stormed across the Central Asia and have dominated countries through human history? The second premise of anti-colonialism is the West became rich through colonial oppression. This is a point that has been echoed by so many leftists, one after the other. They talk, here's Frantz Fanon, for example. He says, the well-being and progress of Europe has been built with the sweat and dead bodies of Negroes, Arabs, Indians, and the yellow races. But in fact, the wealth of the West was built up by the Renaissance and the Reformation and the Scientific Revolution and the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution. And in other words, it was the inner dynamism of Western civilization. People say, well, didn't the West conquer all these other peoples? Yeah, but how did the West get the strength to do that? How is it that the West, take a small country like Britain, a tiny island occupying a very few square inches of real estate on a map, how is Britain able to dominate 60% of the globe? Well, it was able to do it because it had this strength driven by the Industrial Revolution that ultimately created military superiority. It was the West's invention of institutions like science and capitalism that produced not only the innovations, but also the economic dynamism of the West. And of course, the third and critical point is, are the descendants of colonialism, which is to say people like me and Barack Obama, better or worse off as a result of it? And here I can only answer for myself, but my answer is pretty decisive. And that is that although colonialism was in some ways bad for my ancestors, why? Because it was humiliating. They were living under the British subjugation. I recognize all that. But in what sense has colonialism been bad for me? I mean, first of all, it introduced me to the English language, which has been my whole career. I wouldn't have been able to write any of my books, make any of my movies, if I couldn't speak English. Number 2, the British not only built a whole bunch of infrastructure that India has now taken advantage of. The British started, for example, to the kind of technological education that's now put Indians in the front of the world. Gandhi said that he had a dream of wiping a tear off every Indian face. Well, it's the technological development of India that is doing that. Not to mention the British introduction of ideas like freedom and dignity and self-government, and the British courts of law that are continued by the Indians long after the British left. What I'm getting at is that colonialism was the transmission belt that brought Western civilization to Asia, Africa, and South America. And so the legacy of colonialism is not entirely bad. There are bad elements of it, but there are also good elements that have got to be balanced against it. By and large, if you look around the world, the countries today that are worse off, the people who are the poorest, the people who are living in the most primitive conditions in the rainforests of the Amazon, in the faraway tribes of Asia, and so on. Those are the people least exposed to Western civilization. And if you look at the countries that have imbibed Western influence, Japan, the Asian tigers, now increasingly China, India, those are the countries that are growing the fastest, that have the most, that are moving more quickly toward the West and even surpassing the West in many cases in education, in innovation, and in development. Bottom line, I can't give 3 cheers for colonialism because I remember the tears that it extracted from my ancestors, but I'm happy to give 2 cheers for colonialism. Mike Lindell has his classic products, the classic pillows, the classic MyPillow Dream Sheets, but he's also introducing new stuff all the time. And now he's got his new My Slippers. Mike has taken over 2 years to develop these My Slippers. They're designed to wear indoor or outdoor all day long. They're made with MyPillow foam and impact gel to help prevent fatigue. They're made with this great quality leather suede. And for a limited time, Mike is offering 40% off his new My Slippers. The My Slippers, by the way, are so comfortable, you're going to want to get some for the whole family. We actually did. Here's Danielle with her moccasins. And of course, Debbie and I just love ours. I got the moccasins. She got the slip-ons. Go to MyPillow.com and use promo code Dinesh. You'll get deep discounts on all the MyPillow products, the Giza Dream bed sheets, the MyPillow mattress topper, and MyPillow towel sets. Call 800-876-0227 or go to MyPillow.com. Don't forget to use promo code Dinesh. I'm joined by Debbie, and when I made 2016, the movie, which by the way came out in 2012, exploring the anti-colonial thesis involving Obama, there was powerful evidence at the time about an Obama connection that I didn't in fact know about, but I've learned about it.
I did.
You did.
I did.
You knew about it, and you basically, when you told me about the Obama connection to Venezuela, it was eye-opening and confirmed the themes that are in the movie. Talk about that. Talk about what you recognized when you first saw Obama.
Right. So when I first saw Obama, the first thing I noticed was his rhetoric, his social justice rhetoric, but I also noticed a sense of anti-colonial rhetoric, which was very reminiscent of Hugo Chavez. As a matter of fact, many people don't realize this, but Hugo Chavez was not just a socialist, but he was an anti-colonialist, an anti-imperialist. And these were some of the things that he brought into the fold when he destroyed Venezuela, or started destroying Venezuela. So, he wanted to make the wrongs right. He was all for justice against inequality and all of those things. So it wasn't just an attack on the socioeconomic factor of capitalism, but it was on the anti-colonialist as well.
That's why he was pulling down the statues.
Exactly. That's why the Christopher Columbus statue came down. But one of the things that, of course, that I noticed when I saw Obama was the fact that I thought I was looking at Hugo Chavez, except that it was a different language. Obviously, it was English versus Spanish. But one of the things that I thought they were very similar in is their denial about being socialists. And it was very interesting because, as I've told you before, that my grandparents would have never voted for Hugo Chavez had they known he was a socialist. So there's a clip here. It's in Spanish, but it is Hugo Chavez talking about how he's not a socialist. Listen.
No, yo no soy socialista. No, yo creo que ya el mundo de hoy, la América Latina que viene, requiere un salto adelante.
Yeah, so he's being asked, are you a socialist? Are you going to turn Venezuela into a socialist hell, much like the Castro brothers did in Cuba? And he says, oh no, I am not a socialist. Of course not. So that, of course, people would never have voted for him. My grandparents would have never voted for him had they known he was a socialist. But along the same lines, there's a clip of Obama saying pretty much the same thing. Listen.
I don't know that there are a lot of Cubans or Venezuelans, Americans who believe that. The truth of the matter is that my policies are so mainstream that, if if I had said the same policies that I have back in the 1980s, I'd be considered a moderate Republican.
A moderate Republican.
And you know what you see here is you just see the duplicity of these guys. You know, they're two-faced, and the two-facedness is so baked into their personalities that they just lie with a straight face, and they lie in a casual way. They don't feel they're working at it. It comes naturally to them. They've probably been chronic liars their whole life.
Well, and they, you know, again, they were dishonest about who they really were, because they knew that people would not vote for them if they knew that they were socialists. The only dumb socialist is Bernie Sanders. And that could explain why Bernie Sanders is not president today. Because, as you know, both Kamala Harris laughed about the fact that she's not a socialist. Even Biden said he's not a socialist. These guys are very good and cunning about the big lie on that.
And kind of a good way to test them on this is simply to look at it this way. Instead of arguing about nitpicking definitions of socialism, you just look at it this way. If the free market is on one end of the spectrum, and freedom, and full socialism, tyranny, government control, not just of economics, but of your life, is on the other end of the spectrum, ask yourself this question. In which direction are these guys consistently pulling? And it's very obvious that all the major Democrats, and this would include the so-called moderate Democrats, Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, they're all pulling in the socialist direction. So whether they want the train to stop at this station on the way to socialism, they're certainly heading in the direction of socialism. And with Hugo Chavez, as you've taught me, he started it, but it continued under Maduro. The full destruction of Venezuela probably occurred after Chavez's death. Would that be correct?
You would be very correct. And again, the destruction of the society, much like I see what's happening now with critical race theory and all of that, the toppling down of Robert E. Lee's statue, I see it coming. And I warned people many years ago. I did a presentation showing the parallels of the Venezuelan left and the American left. And everything is pretty much happening just as I predicted it would. Again, we can stop it. The Venezuelan people could not. It was really too late for them. I know, and I pray that it's not too late for us, but we have to understand how these people operate and the deceit, the level of deceit that they bring on.
And then, as you pointed out, and you do this also in the movies, is the chilling parallels one after the other. The attack on fossil fuels, the attack on business, the driving out of productive businesses out of the country. The view that the sufferings of Venezuela are all imposed by the white man, and that the influence of the Spanish and of colonialism has been the cause of Venezuela. And
the culprit.
Right.
Yes.
And Hugo Chavez becomes the embodiment of indigenous resistance to all that, and stolen land, and Columbus. It's all there. And so, in a way, Obama is making himself a part of this worldwide movement on the left, that in opposition to Western civilization in general, but to America in particular.
Yes.
I want to summarize where we are with Barack Obama. And, you know, sometimes when I talk about Obama, I think Debbie and I are in the same position. As outsiders, as people who have experienced this anti-colonial ideology, and seen that it is not an ideology that is unwittingly weakening America. It seeks to weaken America. It's not Jimmy Carter's nincompoopery. It isn't that, oh, I'm trying to help America, but, you know, I got rid of the Shah of Iran and, you know, oops, I got Khomeini. That was a surprise, I think, to Carter. It was an extension of his buffoonery. But with Obama, it's not about buffoonery. Obama wants to weaken America. And all his actions are consistent with that. I want to rid the world of nuclear weapons. Seems like a noble idea. But of course, the only nuclear weapons that Obama is actually ridding the world of is our nuclear arsenal. The other countries don't care about what he has to say. They continue to build and modernize. So it becomes a unilateral form of weakening America. Notice that Obama helped to push out Mubarak in Egypt, our ally. and replaced him with a guy from the Muslim Brotherhood, Morsi, who happily was himself pushed out later by the military. Obama got rid of Gaddafi, not a good guy, but Gaddafi was helping us on the issue of terrorism. He's out. Meanwhile, Obama refused to use force to get rid of Assad in Syria, one of America's enemies. Assad is still there. And Obama supported the Iranian mullahs, the Iran nuclear deal, all kinds of ways. Even when there was a massive pro-democracy protest in Iran, Obama was supposedly, we're all right behind the Arab Spring. He wanted democracy in Egypt. But he went dead silent when it came to democracy in Iran. Because why? That would have pushed out the mullahs, who are America's enemy. And for Obama, strengthening our enemies is one way to weaken America, which was, as I say, his anti-colonial goal. So Obama, in that sense, is the first anti-American president that we have had. And if we feel confused and frustrated by what's happening to our country, why things seem to dissolve all around us, I guess what I'm suggesting is it's all an extension of this man's demented, perverse dream. His father was a complete kook. He was a one-legged alcoholic, wife-beater. He was a fraud. He pretended to be in government service even when he wasn't. He'd show up to parties and introduce himself as another high government official, which he wasn't. So everybody began to laugh at him and ridicule him and recognize that this guy was a pretender and a charlatan. The only person who didn't get the memo is his devoted son, who idiotically worshipped at his shrine and then imbibed his spirit and is now wreaking his destructive influence around the world. I'm not saying Obama is doing it alone. He's surrounded by progressive cronies, lots of people carrying out the Obama vision. And of course, Obama's socialist streak, his anti-Americanism, this is not unique to him. Anti-Americanism came into the American body politic going back to the 1960s with the Vietnam War. Obviously, we've had socialists in this country long before Obama. It's a tradition that goes back to Eugene Debs. But the point I want to make is that Obama's dream is not the American dream. It's not Martin Luther King's dream. It's really, in a sense, an American nightmare. That's what Obama represents. And that's what, to some degree, we've been living through. And the reason we've been living through it, even now, even under Biden. Look, for example, at the crackdown on the January 6th protesters. Well, that's something Obama started. He started it with me. He started it with some of the people who are under Trump, the framing of Michael Flynn, of Page, of Papadopoulos. Obama was the driving force of all that. And now we see under Biden, it's just expanded further. So the move toward tyranny, and in a very revealing moment at one point, and this was in the New York Times profile of Obama, he said, I sort of secretly admire the Chinese leadership because he said, those guys don't have to get popular consent. They can pretty much kind of do whatever they want. So you see here in a very revealing way, Obama confessing that tyrannical impulse that is behind anti-colonialism. Notice how many of the anti-colonial leaders became tyrants in so many countries around the world. People like Idi Amin, just complete brutes and dictators. And they did it, though, in the name of freedom, representing the liberation of Kenya. But no, these guys were very bad guys. And Obama's right there among them. I think of him as a sort of almost one of these third world despots, except by a series of circumstances, he came to the helm of power at a troubled time of this great country. And it has been his unceasing desire from that time to take down the country that has elevated him to so high a status. It is an act of monumental, almost satanic ingratitude. But this is Obama. This is who he is. And his corrupt, wicked ideology, far from being pushed out in 2016, is now with us still. In that sense, just as Obama is haunted by the spirit of his demented father, we are haunted by the spirit of this still living, demented man.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify, or watch on Rumble, YouTube, and SalemNow.com.